This is Economy Watch, what you need to know about New Zealand's economic life today. Brought to you by interest.co.nz.
Kia ora, and welcome to Friday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz. And today we lead with news that ECB is warning investors that they aren't taking geopolitical risks into account nearly enough. But first, in China, we're getting reports that Beijing is developing a plan to save their housing markets and state-owned enterprise developers by having the state buy huge numbers of unsold properties to boost demand. It is a sign of desperation. What wouldn't go wrong? Millions of properties partly occupied are surely likely to give an enhanced sense of rot in the sector, while enriching the developers. The future for such a policy looks bleak indeed. Under the proposal, local state-owned enterprises will be asked to help purchase inventory from distressed developers at steep discounts using loans provided by state banks. Hong Kong shares of developers who will benefit from the market clearing zoomed again yesterday. In the US, housing starts there rose in April from March, but are still lower than year-ago levels, and that year-ago standard is not high. Previously, we've seen stronger residential building consent levels, but they are falling on a prior month and prior year basis too now. The new home construction sector is falling back into line with the general real estate resale market, with tepid demand at best. But that weakness is not reflected in their labour markets. The actual number of jobless claims fell last week to 197,000, which was a slightly smaller fall than expected though. It is interesting how expectations for rising labour pressure seem to have turned around. And the real state of retailing in the US can be tracked by the activity of their largest retailers, and the largest is Walmart. They said their first quarter 2024 sales were strong, growing far more than inflation. Most serious analysts see the US economy expanding by 2% in 2024, but the Atlanta Fed's GDP Now model reckons it's expanding nearly twice as fast as that, currently running at a 3.6% expansion real. In one region, the US Philly Fed factory survey turned from a minor positive to a minor negative in May, basically because of a pullback in new orders. But also intriguing is the holding high of survey perceptions of business conditions. They seem confident about the future, very confident. Industrial production in the US was little changed in April, taking 7 of the last 12 months as expansions, 5 as contractions, but most of the expansions, as small as they've been, are in the more recent half of the year. And that has eaten into the year-on-year deficit, so it's now only 0.4% lower. In its latest financial stability review, the European Central Bank says investors are likely to be jolted by negative election surprises in 2024 that will weigh on financial stability. They reckon investors are blind to the sudden shifts in sentiment that geopolitical tensions can drive. And the extra spending they are likely to do on security is also likely to put future strain on European public finances. In Australia, the April labour force data saw the jobless rate rise to 4.1% from 3.9% in March. That means 593,000 of their 14.9 million labour force are without work. Full-time employment fell 6,100, part-time employment rose by 44,600. It was tougher in New South Wales, where full-time employment fell 16,000 and part-time employment rose only 13,000. We have previously noted that financial markets had started pricing in a chance of interest rate rises by the RBA, a lowest chance admittedly. But now we can note they seem to have abandoned those bets, even though the consensus seems to be that the short-term Aussie budget won't be especially inflation-friendly. More globally, the copper price has breached $11,000 at an all-time high, and we're now into the crazy world where short sellers are being squeezed, having to buy their way out of the frenzy, which bids up the price higher. And you may recall we reported a sharp rise in bulk cargo rates last week. Well, it was temporary, and they've now fallen back to the prior week's lower level. But containerised cargo rates are still rising fast, as they did last week, up at another 11% this week, and are now double year-ago levels. This is all driven by outbound from China rates, roiled by the persistent canal and security problems. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.38% and up 2 basis points from yesterday, and gold will start today down $10 at $2,379 an ounce. And oil prices are up $1 today, at just under $79 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is up 50 US cents at $83 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar starts today with a slight easing from yesterday at just on 61.2 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're up to 91.6 Australian cents, a 1-month high. Against the euro, we're unchanged at 56.3 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just on 70.2 and little change from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $64,946, down a very minor 0.2% from yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been modest at plus or minus 1.6%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again on Monday.